A great tradition can be inherited, but greatness by itself must be won by each of us.
His name is Rich DeVos, and he is known the world over as a visionary business innovator, co-founder of the spectacularly successful global Amway Corporation. As an inspiring speaker, author, and motivator, and as a dedicated champion of economic opportunity for all.
The reason, the real heart reason to be in the Amway business is because you'll discover the joy of helping people to help themselves.
A leader in his country, his industry, and his community, Rich DeVos has served on numerous boards and foundations, has provided leadership, direction, and major financial support to a broad range of civic, cultural, and philanthropic institutions, and has been the recipient of scores of awards and honors in recognition of his contributions. Recently, successful heart transplant surgery has allowed Rich to resume a vigorous, active lifestyle that includes ownership in both the men's Orlando Magic and the women's Orlando Miracle professional basketball franchises, as well as the frequent speaking appearances for which he is in demand both at home and abroad. An avid sailor, both competitively and socially, Rich is now beginning to fulfill a lifelong dream of voyaging around the world with his wife Helen. Married for nearly half a century, their 4 children have all assumed leadership positions in the growing Amway Corporation. Profoundly spiritual at his core, Rich DeVos continues to share his dream for the self-realization of men and women everywhere.
Our goal must be to make the lonely and the frustrated and the scared have that sense of hope and security that we can bring them. That's why you're here. And that's what we're all about. Good morning, everybody. Sit here?
Yes, sir, this is us.
I thought the other side was the power seat, Craig. This is the power seat, Craig.
リッチ・デボスが8年ぶりに来日しました。創立20周年を迎える日本アムウェイのナショナルコンベンションでゲストスピーチをするために、前日の深夜に来日したにもかかわらずリッチは朝から活動します。今日はエメラルド DD 以上の方が参加するリッチ・デボススペシャルミーティングの会場、日本アムウェイ本社ビルに向かいました。
本日はリッチ・デボススペシャルミーティングにようこそお越しくださいました。
honor to be able to introduce to you my father.
では
Here's
ここ
Rich.
で私の父親リッチをご紹介申し上げます。
How are you? Congratulations. Thank you. Nice to see you. Hi, beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
How are you doing? My pleasure. Nice to see you. Congratulations. And to you, darling. Kato. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you again. And you. Thank you. I'll take that seat. How are you? Nice to see you. Nice to see you again. Hello, young lady. Very nice to see you. Nice to see you again. How are you? Nice to see all of you. And you. I got to keep going here. Thank you. And you. Right. Congratulations. And you. And you. And you. And you. I got to go to work. Okay, thank you. Okay, young. Nice job. Okay. 1, 2, 3, down. Oh, you did that very well. Let's see. Konnichiwa. Ohayou gozaimasu. Domo arigato. Vamos. Anyway. It's a wonderful joy to be back with you and have a chance to visit with you today, a little bit about this business and what we think is happening to it. Now, all of you are leaders in this room, so we can just get honest today and talk about the business as it is, okay? It isn't like you're brand new and never had a turn down or somebody who dropped out. It isn't like you made a pin and then fell down. I thought we all ought to throw our pins on the floor and then we'll start over and act like we're just beginning. If we do that, Dick will run and pick them all up and take them back to America, and we can't have him do that. It's a great challenge for somebody from America to come here and live here and try to run a business here. And so I salute Dick as well for the work he's done. And after 8 years, some of you are still speaking to him. And some of you aren't speaking to him. But some of you don't want to speak to me either. So Dick's had to deal with some of the tough things here and some of the good things. But we salute him for the great work he's done and wish him well as he returns to America. I think, come on up here, Dick. He has lived here.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
so much. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, they're grateful to you. Nice job.
I'm grateful to you. Thank you.
You tell them he's lived in this part of the world 25 out of the last
28 years.
28 years. So it's time for him to come home and see his children and grandchildren again. So thank you, Dick.
Thank you.
Welcome home.
Thanks, my friend. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
And this building will always be a tribute to you because while you were here, you caused this to happen.
Thank you.
So this is a living memorial for you.
Thank you, sir.
Don't fall off that edge. Oh, okay. Now you got, that kid Payne over here. Come on up here, Payne. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I don't know, does he look like he can survive this? Good luck, Jim. He's been in Ada, he's been in other parts of the world, he's been through a few wars, and he's come here to go through a few wars with you. You know, I kid with you about wars, but we are constantly being challenged. And we can call it a war or we can call it a challenge. It doesn't matter, but we are constantly being challenged in life and in business. You don't have dropouts just in distributors. Sometimes your own children drop out. And sometimes your relatives not only dropped out, they've been laughing at you for 20 years. And then the fact you're working with an American company, that kind of makes you a little nervous. So, you know, sometimes when you're new and in a leadership role, you always think it's pretty good when you start. But whenever you're involved a little more deeply in something, you find out there's good and bad, and not all roses are just good. Now, I want to get my coat off, and we're just going to go to work today, and we're going to talk about some of the hard things in this business, okay? So let's just talk about the realities of the business. And not just, oh, well, the economy in the world is down and therefore our business is down, and that's a wonderful excuse. And I know that affects our business, but it doesn't control our future, and we must not think it does. Because while the economy was going down, some of you continued to go right on up. And sometimes when that happens, instead of saying, I'm not doing anything, we try to pull the upper one down. Now, that's a normal human trait, but I think you and I are above that. Built this business on the idea of recognizing those who can achieve in great amounts. You know, when we started, we didn't have a big building to talk about. We had a little dumpy warehouse and a dinky little office. I was there, and it wasn't much. And without any of those things, and with a new company in a strange country, some of you took that and you ran with it and made it what it is today. I think we better go back to a little dinky office again, and then get rid of this building, and then you'll do better. But no, we're successful now, so now we have time to do all this other junk. Now, some of you who've been around a long time know that what I'm giving you is my old 20-year speech. And when a market gets about this old, it starts doing those things. And the business, so it's the old 4 steps talk, really. So if you want to follow me, it's the 4 steps. So our business went up, and our business goes down, and now we are all experts on what's wrong with it. And now we begin to say, oh, I ought to do it this guy's way, and I ought to do it that lady's way. And they know how to do it better than I do, and he knows better than we do. So as we return to doing the fundamental things in this business, or the number 1 step, the building mode, are you doing as well in this business as you thought you would when you started? Probably most of you are doing better than you thought you would do when you started. So you know all about how to do it. But then what happens in a business is when it gets sort of successful, we slide from being a builder to being the boss or the manager. And while you're doing that, you know, you don't have any time to sponsor anybody. Now, I know you have to work depth, and I know you have to work with those people, but you do that with one hand, and you do this hand, you get new people. And your leadership here proved how talented they are in doing that. And they broke records in this business compared to the whole world. And the only difference between them and you is they kept bringing them in with this hand while they are playing with their groups with this hand. You know, there's a fascination in this business that I can make those people down there successful. And I used to say to people, if you know how to make people successful, then go to the poorest part of Tokyo and take some of those people and just go make them successful. I got to tell you, you can't do it. So what is it that we do? We bring in a lot of people, and then those who want to, they go with it. And the trick is that we bring a lot of them in. Now, you do everything you can to help them, to keep them in, but if they don't move ahead, you got to move out. I've had distributors say to me, well, if you don't put on a meeting for me, I'm going to quit. Now, this is after they sat through several meetings. And I say, don't lay that guilt trip on me. You're not talking about my business. You're talking about your business. And if you want to quit, then you give up your business. But I'm going to go out and find somebody else who will. Don't forget, Jay and I ran a distributorship and made a living out of this business for 10 years before we started Amway. So, unlike most of our competitors, we know this business from the distributor standpoint. And that's why we did certain things, primarily 2 of them I'd like to tell you about. Number 1, we built the distributorship to where they sign up and pay, and they have to re-sign every year. First of all, that covers the cost of keeping them in the business. And that immediately says we can sign up them people forever, because it's self-liquidating and it just can go on into the millions. And that also meant that the sponsor didn't make the decision of who to keep in the business and who to keep out of the business. It is up to the individual to renew his commitment to the business. So you keep driving the decision-making about whether I will succeed or not into the hands of the individual distributor. That's how you keep moving back to this stage one all the time. Now, the second magic thing is the way the sales plan operates. 40 years ago, when we drew out the sales plan, we worked it out to the 100th level to make sure it would keep working all the way up. So it was always worked up that those who worked would always take it up, and those who weren't working, it would pass them by. We didn't have to kick them out. They just didn't make anything if they didn't do anything. Some stay in your group because they got one good leg. They don't do anything. They hardly even use it, probably. They live in the hope that someday they'll find another leg. And I live in the hope that they will, too. But I'm not going to stand around waiting for it. I'm going to start another leg. And that's why through my life in Amway, I've always on the road talking to new people. When you're in stage two, the management stage, you get fascinated with talking to the same old dead bunch. And that makes you feel good, but if they don't do something, then it's time you find some new people. And then all you at certain levels got to get together and find out how you do it and how they do it, and why they do it right, and why you do it wrong, and why whatever. So if you're going to have meetings that you speak at, then you got to have meetings where you listen to. Just like now, we're all having a good time talking to each other. But it isn't getting any new people in. So thanks for coming, but let's get out of here. So, it sounds simple, doesn't it? You know, if you stay in that management stage and your business levels out, or the business goes down because a leg falls out, then you've got a pin that you aren't really earning, and that's okay. I know how hard you work to make your pin level, and I know when the business goes down, you're going to fall below that level a little bit. And if there's some life in one of those legs, then see if you can resurrect it. But the other way is to go out and start another one. But when that happens to you, then you go to stage three. And that is a defensive or justification stage. That's where some of you get together and talk about the big economy is down and the prices are up and therefore we can't do it anymore. And then you can all cry together. But when you stay there a little while, you will go to the fourth stage. Now, if you understand you're in stage three, you can still quickly get back to stage one of starting to build. But if you stay in stage four is where you blame each other and the company. Now, when you get to stage four and you've been blaming other groups and other people and your own distributors, then you get to blaming the company. And not too many people can come back from stage four, because the word gets out amongst the other people that you've been finding fault with them, and you're finding fault with the company, and pretty soon you don't feel good about yourself. And so at the very time you should go out and get some new people, you got such a bad attitude you can't even do it anymore. So let's move ourselves back to stage one, stop our finger pointing, and go make it happen. Now, don't do it for me. It's your business. Do it for you. Now, let's face it. There's going to be a lot of challenges shortly in the future in this country and elsewhere as things change and we move to new modes of doing business. I came on this trip to reassure you that these two families are committed to you, the future of this business and the future of Japan. We didn't build this building because we're going to go away. And so we are committed to you, to this business, and together we're going to make this a great business. Our faith in you and our faith in this country knows no bounds. And Douglas is committing his life and his time to trying to help you and to help us all work together. Now, if we stop waging war with each other, then we can wage our war with the outside world and go take them on and show them the best way to do it. And so I leave you with these kind words. I love you. I'm proud of you. I know you can do it. And all you emeralds in the back, I want to see you sitting in the front so these people can cheer you on. And then you can come over here to some of these people and say, move over, I'm coming in. And they will welcome you, and we will salute you, and I thank you. Domo arigato. Thank you, everybody. Beautiful picture.
はい、皆様ありがとうございました。本当に素晴らしいスピーチをありがとうございました。
It is quick. And you, 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 and all these young stars. Yes. And hello. Okay, you doing for your pass? You ready for your run? And you, and you, and you. I belong to you. Sit down there. Come on, just get in here. Cheers! Ohio gozaimasu. Konnichiwa. Thank you, everybody.
これから特別社員会を始めたいと思います。
And it's a pleasure to be with all of you today. And they tell me that the things I've been telling the distributors, I ought to tell you. And we have a very big, big, big business here. So I was asking all the distributors, and I ask you to redirect your effort, to do whatever we can to encourage and help all of our distributors. And that means you say to anyone you meet, you can do it, we believe in you. Some of you have a bigger responsibility and have a bigger title, but you are all important to you, and we respect all of you, and we love all of you. The challenge you have here is to make this the best, happiest group of employees in any company in Japan. Now, we have spent much of this day talking to distributors, and much more of it posing for pictures and shaking hands. That's just because I wanted to show my respect for each one of them so they would feel honored and important whatever pin level they had. And we built this whole business all over the world on that simple idea. We just saw that demonstrated with the excitement of the distributors we were with. And 100,000 people don't come to a meeting unless they feel good about what you're doing. So be proud of yourself. I am proud of you. You're going to see Douglas, and you're going to see these families involved in the long term, and we are here because of that respect for you. When I leave here, I guarantee you I will not worry about Japan, because I know it's in good hands. And so I will just go home smiling and happy about the joy of seeing you and having a chance to thank you. I quit.
ここで終わりにしたいと思います。
You want questions? You want questions?
excited about the technology when it comes up. Yeah, and this photographer, this, yeah.
I see you.
Okay, when they come in, if we have meetings with them, we bring them in here. If they're in Tokyo and they need a break, they're welcome to come up here. Yes, that's the Herbalist.
Fine art.
Yes.
Just wonderful.
Well, thank you very much. We'll backtrack.
Oh, very nice. Push.
Now we should.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's my dad, Rich
ではご
DeVos.
紹介します。私の父、リッチ・デボスです。
Howdy. Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. Thank you. Domo arigato. Thank you, Star. Beautiful. Thank you, guys. Thank you, how are you? Thank you there. Thank you there. Hello, young man. Last one, Dick. Oh, beautiful. Oh. Look at all these girls. Wow. Whoa, look at this. Come on, spin around. How you doing, Jack? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ho, 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 ho. Here he is. See you, Carter. Thank you.
Thank you very
Nice
much.
job. Nice job. Thank you, Douglas. Come out here and go to work. Okay. Oh, I got a hand loose. Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Plenty of time.
Start at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, you have an hour and 15 minutes.
That's it. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, young man. Nice job. Here they go. All the stars. Everybody over here okay?
皆さん、お元気ですか？
I'll show you my back. And over there,
皆さんいらっしゃいますか？
and all of you, and all of you,
すべての皆さんへ、
and all of you, and way up there,
上の方の方々も、
and way over here.
そしてこちらの方々も、
Thank you. And over here too, huh?
そしてこちらにもいらっしゃいますね。
Now we go 1, 2, 3, down. You already all know English. Now, down is not a good word. We came today to talk about how you go up. Most people spend their life going even, but that's not any fun. You're going to break your neck over there. Just watch over here. I kind of walk around. They got this crutch up here for me. I had a stroke 8 years ago, and so my left side is a little numb, and I'm a little unsteady. But just because I'm a little unsteady doesn't mean we don't come out and keep trying to do what we know how to do. And that's our theme today, is to talk about the fact that you can do it if you set your mind to do it. But before I talk about that, I want to pay a tribute to all those who over the last 20 years have made this business what it is today. And I know many of you have not been with us for 20 years, probably most of you. But there were a few of you, about 100, who came to the very first meeting I ever had in Japan. And they believed in this idea, and they believed it would work in Japan. And their belief is why it's possible that we are all here today. So I first of all pay tribute to their faith in this company and honor them for what has happened here. And with all of our companies all over the world, this is the biggest, and I salute you. Now I also want to pay tribute today to Dick, who's leaving us and coming back to the United States as a new job there, and to thank him for his 8 years as general managers here in Tokyo. And to welcome Jim, who you have seen on the stage also, as our new general manager, because we needed a new young guy. Now that's because all of you are so young. Now, maybe my eyes fool me. Maybe it's just the cosmetic beauty. Did you lose me? But now that we've said all that nice stuff about all these wonderful people, it's time to take our coat off and go to work here and get down to business. Now I want to spend a little time on a kind of an old subject, and yet it's new in some ways, but it deals with the fear of failure that affects all of us. And I know you come here with hopes and faith in your future, but back there is a little bit of fear about whether you can do it or what somebody will say about you. Sometimes we have people come to a meeting like this who are even afraid to tell their friends they came to an Amway meeting for fear of what they will say. And so we are so driven by fear that sometimes we never do anything because we're fear of what somebody else will say. And what happens when you do that is you give control of your life over to someone else. And then they decide what's going to happen to you instead of you deciding. Now we have the fear of failure, the fear of what other people will say, the fear of rejection, the fear of change. Now the first thing we must do is deal with change and learn to accept the fact that things are changing fast. And in the world of Amway, they change all the time. But just because they change doesn't mean we have any less commitment to you or to Japan. We never make a change if it's just good for us and not good for you. The people who have been with us here in Japan for 20 years have seen many changes and many new bonuses added as well. They never seemed to worry when we gave more money away. Our plan has gone through many changes as well. But one principle always continues uniquely in Amway. And that is that the opportunity today is better than it was when people signed up 20 years ago. We often have companies who start up to copy Amway, and they say, get in on the ground floor, which says if I got in with when Hashimoto got in, or when I got in with Nakajima got in, or when I got in when Bono got in, if I'd gotten in then, I'd be where they are now. But when we put this plan together, it was done so that there is no ground floor, there is no preferred position. It is equally good whenever you come in. And whenever someone says to you, oh, get in with us because you can get in on the ground floor, you're in trouble, and so are they. So every day is the ground floor day in Amway. And that's why after 20 years in Japan, after our first 20 years in the United States, Amway Japan is bigger than Amway USA. And you may not understand the workings of that, but take my word for it, it is one of the most unique, miraculous things about this business. And so to illustrate how to handle change, I thought since I hadn't been here in 8 years, I would give you a little Amway history so you would see how we handled change. When Jay Van Andel and I started our first business, we started a flying school. Now that was a change, but the important thing is that neither one of us knew how to fly. And so when you consider doing something new, you say, oh, I can't do it, I've never done this. But we didn't let our not flying stop us from starting. We just began and hired instructors and learned from them. And in the Amway business, you also have an instructor. They're called your sponsor or your direct distributor. Someplace in there we opened a little restaurant, but it failed. But just because it failed didn't mean we didn't start another business. We had decided we wanted to be in business for ourselves. When we started selling Nutrilite, somebody said to us, why don't you get an honest job? And we said, because we don't want a job. We want a business of our own. So it all starts here with making a decision that you want to take charge of your life. A friend of mine was asking, what is the driving force that makes Amway successful? And I said, it's not the products, and it's not the plan. The power of this business is when people make up their minds to do something and take charge of their life. When we started in this business selling Nutrilite, the first thing we did was to get some customers. And when you do that, it will help you overcome two fears at one time. One of those is the fears of whether people will buy our products, and the second one is whether you can sell our products. And the moment you get one customer, you prove that you can do it, because all you do after that is just do it again. Don't complicate this business. It's a very simple business. You just do the same thing over and over. I remember the first little meeting we had in our house to try and recruit some distributors. We had 6 of our friends over, some of them who really needed this business. However, none of them got in. And they thought we were a little crazy to think this thing would work. Just because a couple of our friends couldn't see it didn't mean that you can't see it or we couldn't see it. And then we got into that fear factor of what our friends are going to say about us. And they would all say, oh, well, you know, they're okay, but that's not going to go anywhere. I would like to have them here today. One day I was coming out of church, and a man sitting next to me said, aren't you with Amway? And he said, well, I was in that once. I said, well, the only difference between you and me is I stayed in it. And that's just a matter of overcoming these little things that keep you from staying with it and moving forward. When Amway was doing well in the United States, we said, I wonder if it will work in another country. And so we got real brave and said, well, we'll try Canada. That's right next door. Besides that, they speak English. And after a few years, that started going pretty good. And we said, well, let's try Australia. They still speak English, but it's the other side of the world. We didn't sit home and say, oh, well, they might not like it. It's a long ways away. We said, let's go try. That's what I say to you. You can try or you can cry. Now, then somebody wanted to sponsor somebody in Hong Kong, and we said, oh, that's a whole different culture. I'm not sure it'll work there. Well, it worked there, and as you now know, it's worked everywhere in the world. But it took just as much faith to go out and do that as it does for you to go out and talk to a few people. You don't have to gamble anything except a little time. Now, I moved right where I was because there's a lady over there going blind in that spotlight, and I wanted to cover her face. I've been trying to cover a couple of rows down there by giving them a little shadow. And I'm talking to you about doing this business. And you're going to come out of the shadow and get into the light of this wonderful business. Now, I can go on about how we overcame government challenges, because government said, oh, that's not a legitimate business. And we had to work with those governments to justify the legitimacy of this marketing plan. But because we kept working on it, we are now the biggest personal selling company in the world. When we started in China, we got started, and then the government said, no, you can't do it. But we worked with the government, readjusted our plan, and we're up and running again. And we just came from a 5-city tour of China with meetings not quite this big, but very big and very enthusiastic. Chinese people like you and people everywhere are looking for a chance to take charge of their lives. My faith tells me that sometimes doors close, but whenever a door closes, another door opens. Your being here today may be that door opening for you. Now, I really want to talk about the fear of rejection, because it seems to stop so many people from going forward because they are afraid the government or their friends or their family will reject them. Sometimes they don't openly reject you, they just ignore you. And because you've decided to do something with your life and they haven't, they really don't want you to go someplace. Now, I want to talk to you about rejection because I understand rejection. As big as Amway is, I still talk to people who tell me it will never last. They still think we're a little funny. And just because they can't understand it doesn't make us funny. They have their blinders on, and you and I will just have to let them stay blind. They are oftentimes paralyzed by the fear of any change in their life. Now, about 3.5 years ago, I had a serious heart problem. I had already had a serious stroke and a heart attack. Prior to that, I had had 2 bypass surgeries on my heart. In addition, I was a diabetic and suffered from high blood pressure. And so I was getting a lot of messages that I was being rejected, or my body was being rejected. And so approximately 3 years ago, my doctors came to me and told me I did not have much time to live. Now that's pretty serious rejection. But my faith told me that if the Lord had given me 71 good years, then praise the Lord and do the best we could. But even though they said my heart was failing rapidly, there was one doctor in London who might be able to get me a heart because of the blood type I had. They had already talked to every doctor and hospital in the United States that did transplants, and they all said no. And they said, well, he's too old and he's too big a risk because of his other conditions. So, more rejection, but they said there's this one doctor who might consider you if he talks to you. He had all my medical records and my x-rays and the tests, but he said, I still want to talk to him. He said, I have to see if he has the will to live, if he has the ability to overcome and if he has the spirit to go through it all. It's the sort of question you have to ask as to whether you have the will and the spirit to do this. Our son Douglas, who is here, my wife, and our other son Dan, all were with us when we went to see the doctor. And after talking to him for about 20 minutes, he said, "Okay, you've got a spirit to live." He said, "I will consider you for a heart." And so we overcame another rejection. And then he said, "But I don't know when I'll be able to find you a heart. It might be tomorrow, it might be 1 year, but we'll start to see if we can find a heart that will match your needs." And so we waited for the next 5 months while they tested me every week to see that I could stay alive for a few more days. They would check me, and they would send a probe inside of me to see how the pressures were inside of my heart, because they had to find a heart with the AB type blood. It had to be a right size heart and the right type tissue, and then it had to be a strong right side heart, which was very unique. And then it had to be a heart that at that time no one in the United Kingdom could use, because I was a foreigner and they all came first. And so it was 5 months after we moved to London that we went to the hospital, and they said, "I think we have a heart for you today." So we were operated on that day, because in that same hospital was a woman, a 39-year-old woman looking for a new set of lungs. But her heart fit all my requirements. And so she received a new heart and lungs all at once. So I am one of the few people in the world who can say, I'm doing well with my new heart, and my donor is also alive and well. And so on that day, she was operated on. Thank you. So on that day, she was operated on in one theater, I was in the next, and her body was out of body and in mine in 28 minutes. So I now have a 41-year-old woman's heart, which I've had for 2.5 years. Now, I think I was saved and kept alive so I could be with you here today. So I know something about rejection and the fear of rejection. But then when you get a new heart, it's possible your other organs will reject your new heart. Douglas's son, knowing about rejection, would pray, "Dear Lord, help Grandpa's other organs to accept his new heart." And in those early days, you think about rejection every day, that at any time your heart could begin to be rejected and die. Every week they'd run a probe inside your heart to see if the meat was still fresh. And as long as it looked like fresh hamburger when it came out, the doctor said it was probably okay. And so now every day I have to take anti-rejection drugs. And I came here today to give you some anti-rejection medicine. So that you can overcome the fear of change, the fear of what people will say, the fear of rejection, and greatly the fear of whether you can do it. In the early days, we weren't sure. We had to go out and try and see if people could do it. But today, that's not a question anymore. It's not a question of whether the company can do it or whether distributors can do it. It's only a question of, will you do it? Our beautiful new, 10, 12, 13-story building is a tribute to the fact that people in Japan can do it. The $1 billion or more worth of Amway products we sell says, you can do it. Now, I knew those people standing on the stage when they just started. Speak so confidently then. And they didn't have such fancy clothes as they have now. And they didn't have their hair all done up so beautiful. Most of them in those days even cut their hair. But now they can wear it long and nice. Some of them dress up so well they even wear glasses without glass in it. But don't let that scare you. That's just the clothing. They're just like you when they began. And my dream the next time I come is that many of you will be on this stage with them and assume your role as leaders in the world of Amway. You see, you can't fool me, and I will not accept your excuses, because I know you can do it the moment you believe you can do it and begin to say, yes, we can do it. My father taught that to me when I was a young boy, and I pass it on to you today with our very best wishes and our many thanks. Domo arigato.
その言葉がそうなんです。You can do it がその言葉なのです。どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you over here. Domo. Domo. And up there. Thank you. And you. And all of you. And all of you. Domo arigato. Best wishes. You can do it. Go for it. Oh, here they come. All the beauty queens. Thank you, Connor. Very much. Yeah, thank you. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Oh, brother. I like your tie. Thank you, everybody.
どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you, beautiful.
また来年もお会いしましょう。
本日はどうもありがとうございました。
Where's Maria? Maria up here, Doug? Here, let me give those to Maria, my daughter-in-law. Here's Maria. Douglas's wife, Maria.
ダグラスの奥さん、ダグの奥さんです。マリアです。
Round big bow. Thank you. You're very nice. Mr. Normal. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody. That's my spot. There's my spot. Line them up. Come on, I have some pretty girls over here. Let's go, ladies. All of you, get in here. Come on. Look at this queen. Woo-wee. Woo. Thank you, everybody. Domo arigato. Domo.
リッチ・デボスは今回の来日でまた印象的なメッセージを残してくれました。社員会ではディストリビューターを全力でサポートすることが皆さんの使命だと社員により一層の奮闘を促し、エメラルド DD 以上の方が参加したスペシャルミーティングではビジネスを始めた頃の基本に帰ってスポンサー活動を行うこと、試練に立ち向かうことなどの重要性を説きました。そしてナショナルコンベンションでは不安を乗り越え失敗を恐れず自分自身に確信を持って行動すること、 You can do it、 あなたならできると語りかけました。4日間の滞在を終え、リッチ・デボスは成田空港からアメリカへ帰国します。一人一人の心に感動あふれるメッセージを残して。
SkyPerfect TV 最新のデジタル技術を駆使した圧倒的なクオリティとテレビラジオ合わせて300近くのチャンネルがあなたを虜にします。最大級を誇るその内容は映画、音楽、スポーツ、ニュース、ドキュメンタリー、趣味、教養とあらゆるジャンルをフルカバー。見たい時に見たい番組を思いのままにキャッチ。徹底的にあなたのニーズにお応えします。
Amway Channel Amway Channel